Welcome back. We are excited to continue revealing the brackets for the high school football playoffs. Luke, take it away with Division 6.
All right, here we go. It all kicks off with Grantsburg, the Lakeland Conference winners, coming in as the top seed on that top left side of the bracket. They'll host Cumberland. In the battle of 4 versus 5, it will be Ladysmith taking on Unity. Cameron is number 3 against Crandon, and Abbotsford will be the 2 seed here against Cadott.
All right, let's keep it rolling in Division 6 with Quadrant 2. Auburndale will be the 1 seed against Marathon. Luther comes in at number 4 against 5th seeded Coleman. Mondovi, the 3 seed, they will host Bondul. And finally, Stratford is seeded number 2 against 7th seeded WIAA Fremont.
All right, well, Stratford, once again, a top 5 team heading into the postseason. They're also the defending Division 6 champions. What kind of threat do you feel like this team poses going into the playoffs?
Well, they're very good, certainly. Defending state champions. Now, they did lose a lot from last year. They only had 8 returning starters from last season, but one of them was Kohler Kilty, an outstanding running back that really brings a lot to the table and dominated in that state championship game last year. So when you have a player like that, especially later into the playoffs, poor weather, that can be a real big boost for a team as they're trying to get back to Camp Randall.
When you look at their road to Camp Randall, what kind of matchup stands out to you?
Well, I think they got a pretty favorable grouping. They are the 2 seed. Auburndale is the 1 seed in that group. Only 1 loss for Stratford this year. It was kind of a blowout loss against their big rival Edgar. But I think it sets up well for the Tigers to get back to Madison potentially. But we've got some great teams on the right side of the bracket that are coming up that I think will be certainly a stiff test for anyone that comes out of the left side.
All right, well, that's what we call a tease in the TV business. So let's get back to the brackets in that top right corner. For Division 6, it's Kewanee who will play Encanto and a 4 versus 5 matchup featuring Cedar Grove, Belgium, and Waterloo. Marshall comes in as a 3 seed after winning a share of the Eastern Suburban Championship. They'll take on Howard's Grove. And then it's St. Mary's Spring, the 2nd seed, and they will host Random Lake.
Now to the final piece of the Division 6 bracket. Darlington, seeded number 1, they will take on Belleville. 4th seeded Racine Lutheran takes on Mineral Point as the 5 seed. Under them, Lancaster, number 3, they will host Cambridge. And the Midwest Classic Conference winners, Kenosha St. Joseph, they will play against Cuba City. So let's talk about Darlington, the number 1 seed. What really stands out to you about Darlington?
Well, that's a football team built for the playoffs and built for bad weather, running the football first and foremost under Travis Winkers. I got a chance to see them earlier this year. Unfortunately, it was their only loss of the year as they went down to Prairie du Chien, but a very strong team. The Swall is a very good conference, and you got to like what the Redbirds can bring to the table. They have so much postseason success over the years, going back to the 80s and 90s and more recently. They know how to win down there in Darlington, but it is going to be a tough test for the Redbirds to get to Madison.
Yeah, and a lot of postseason success, but looking for their first state championship title since 1995. What team do you feel like could get in their way?
Well, at the bottom of that bracket, Kenosha St. Joseph is undefeated. They've been top ranked in our Division 6 coaches poll on WISports.net most of the season. And then the top part of that bracket, Kewanee, is undefeated. St. Mary Springs is undefeated. We know what Springs can do in the postseason. 14 straight years they've made it to at least the state semifinals. I saw Kewanee beat Southern Door earlier this year. They're very, very good. So this right side of the bracket is loaded in Division 6.
Exciting.
14 straight, pretty impressive number. Well, let's take a look at that full Division 6 bracket. Travis, I mean, we just touched on it a little bit, but are there any more intriguing matchups? I know we talked a lot about that right side. What about the left side? Is there anyone that you have circled on that left side?
Well, Grantsburg is an undefeated champion out of the Lakeland Conference, certainly catches your eye right away. There's some pretty good teams out of the Marywood in that group as well in the left side of the bracket. And don't overlook Mondovi either. They made it to the state championship game last year and actually lost to Stratford. So that could be an interesting level 2 matchup, Stratford and Mondovi.
What stands out about Mondovi? Talking about a team that obviously has experienced a state championship game. How much do you feel like that can fuel them getting back there?
Well, it's a very different team. They're, again, one of those teams that lost a lot of their production from last year, so it will be tough for the Buffaloes, and again, an early matchup potentially. We always highlight potential on some of these. We don't want to make anybody mad by skipping over, but again, a level 2 matchup with Stratford is a tough test for Mondovi.
All right, well, let's go to Quadrant 1 of Division 5. Moving on, we started off in the top left corner with Colby hosting 8th-seeded Durand, Arkansas. In the fourth 4 versus 5 game, it'll be Neillsville Granton against St. Croix Falls. Then we have Stanley Boyd as the 3 seed against Gale Ettrick Tupelo. Northwestern coming in with a share of the Hero North Championship as the 2 seed, and they'll play Elk Mound.
And the top seed in the bottom left quadrant is Wittenberg Burnham Wood. They'll take on Clintonville in the first round. And then we have Amherst, the 4 seed, hosting New Holstein. Then it will be Sturgeon Bay traveling to take on number 3, Wrightstown. And Southern Door finishes off this part of the bracket as the 2 seed. They are hosting number 7, Tomahawk.
Well, let's not waste any time. Jumping to Quadrant 3 now. We kick it off with the Cooley Conference champs, Aquinas. They'll host New Glarus Monticello, who comes in at number 8 in their final season as a co-op. 4-seeded Westby will host Watertown Luther Prep, who's the 5th seed. Last year's Division 4 state champions, Columbus, is the 3rd seed. They'll see Broadhead Judah. And Prairie du Chien is the number 2 seed, which will host 7th-seeded Clinton. Well, heading into the state tournament, the 2-time defending state champions, the Aquinas Blue Golds, once again number 1 in Division 5. What's it going to take for them to raise a gold ball once again?
Well, that is a loaded group, by far the toughest group in Division 5. Interesting in Division 5, there's only 2 conference champions in all of Division 5. There are no undefeated teams in Division 5. But for Aquinas, they're the top seed. However, you have Columbus, the defending Division 4 state champions, in that grouping. You have Prairie du Chien, a very good team out of the SWC. I mentioned they beat Darlington earlier this year. So it'll be a tough challenge for Aquinas. They're used to it, though. They came out of probably the toughest bracket in D5 last year, where they also had, by the way, a defending champion in their bracket. Colby had won D6 the previous year. So they're used to a tough test. This is a very different team. Jackson Flotmeyer and a number of players that had been the core for back-to-back state titles have moved on. Walter Burns, outstanding basketball player, stepping into a big role for the Blue Golds this year. But in a division that I think is pretty open, they've got to be among the favorites.
All right, we go to the final quadrant now of Division 5. Winnebago Lutheran is the top seed. They will host Mayville in the first round. Then it's Lake Country Lutheran as the 4 seed hosting Brookfields Academy. Orcon Hustaford is 3 seed. They will take on Oostburg, who is the 6th seed. And we finish the bracket off with Milwaukee Academy of Science. They are the number 2 seed, and they are hosting Lomira. Here is a look at the full Division 5 bracket. Now, going back to Columbus, Columbus is coming off a Division 4 state championship. They do move down a class this year. I caught up with Columbus head coach Andrew Selgrad after his team finished 7-1 on the season. He was a little shocked by his team's seed.
We'll just use it as fuel. So it's a 3 seed. That's fine. I disagree with it, obviously, but especially since we lost to a very talented Lodi team. So that's fine. We'll just keep playing football. It's the 2nd season, and we got to prove it on the field.
What's it going to take from your team to defend your title?
It's going to take focus. It's going to take energy. It's going to take the drive to continue game by game, week by week, and to stay focused on that, to realize that last year's over with, and this is our chance to add another chapter into Columbus football history.
Camp Randall starts right here. We will continue revealing the Division 4 brackets when we come back.